Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another Golden Age horror classic. Because, for the month of October, I wanted to do the Halloween series, but also the old, black and white, Golden Age, universal or otherwise, horror classics. And you can't really get much more old school than this, but I'm doing Nosferatu. Now, I don't have it by itself. I have it part of this 50 horror classics collection. Excuse me. Now, Nosferatu came out in 1922, and many people consider it to be the first horror film. Although The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari came out in 1920. So, it's also subjective anyway. But I think Nosferatu was the first iconic horror film. Which, of course, Nosferatu is German for vampire. And this is actually, first and foremost, probably considered a German Expressionist film. Which, I don't really know 100%. I know it has something to do with lighting and shadows, camera angles, almost making it dreamlike. I guess making it more like art than like a movie, I guess. Which I know Dr. Caligari is way more trippier and artistic than Nosferatu. But, so yeah, it's German for vampire because it's an adaptation of Dracula. It's like the oldest adaptation of Dracula. But I think at that time they had a hard time acquiring the rights from Bram Stoker or his estate. So they pretty much made Dracula, but they changed all the names. So like instead of Count Dracula, it's Count Orlock. Instead of Renfield, it's... Well, actually, it's weird because while I was watching it, the names were all the same to Dracula. So at some point, there must have been some release of Hutter. I guess it is Hutter, I think. I'm just going to go by the regular names. Renfield, whatever. Renfield goes to Transylvania to pick up Orlock, or Dracula, Nosferatu, whatever. He gets turned into a vampire there. He comes back to, London or the States or wherever it is. And, people on the ship get killed, and people in the town start turning into vampires, so they call it a plague. There's the sort of romance aspect between, like, Harker and his fiancée and Nosferatu. And I really like it. I mean, I haven't seen too many silent films, which this one is. For those that don't know, like, it's not silent as in dead silence. Like, there's no audio from the film itself. So, like someone punches, you don't hear that. You don't hear, like hoofs on the street from horses, and you don't hear voices. Every time someone talks, how TV says the end, you get the dialogue in text on the screen. I'm sure most people already knew that. I don't know why I felt the need to explain it. But, and it's not all that often. And it's usually really short. I mean, it's mostly, you're watching something. The original title was Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror. That's because for the entire 96 minutes, there's like this gothic church organ music. That is either really mellow, really intense, it's all over the place. Of course, it was directed by F.W. Murnau, I think that's how you pronounce it. Orlock was played by Max Schrek, which of course is also the name of Christopher Walken's character in Batman Returns. Because I think Tim Burton was going through a German Expressionist phase at that point. Like, especially Dr. Caligari and calling him Max Schrek. And in fact, like, that's the original poster. And so this was pretty much like really like the first vampire movie. And I would say it set the standard for vampires the way Lon Chaney's Wolfman did for werewolves. I would say that is still a Bela Lugosi's Dracula. But Count Orlock is still a very iconic vampire. I mean, one of the last scenes of the film is him in silhouette going up the steps. And that, I mean, that is as iconic as The Shining's Here's Johnny. You know, you put that anywhere, people know what it is. That might be my favorite shot in all of horror films. It's great. There's also the shot of, you know, like one of the first times we see him where he's walking through the hallway and he comes out of the darkness. Kind of like with Frankenstein's monster. We see him for the first time. He backs out of the darkness and turns around. Fucking nose. I'm so sick of being stuffed up all the time. I know I could blow it, but that doesn't help. And I think the whole thing with vampires, like stiff body, whole body, like rising out of the coffin, like that, that's in this. So, a bunch of wonderful imagery. The church organ music does help set the tone. And even for 1922, when there are special effects, like the last shot of the vampire, he disappears, and then there's like a puff of smoke. So there's like a dissolve shot. But probably my favorite thing is, you know, I love the grittiness, the grain of the film. You know, the lines, the black dots, sometimes there's like little cracks and pops of the film. I love that look. That's why a lot of movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or whatever that look like that anyway, I don't really care to see in 4K. I like it, you know, raw and visceral and crackly and poppy and gritty and grainy. That really helps set the mood as well. You know, I mean, other than that, it's still pretty much Dracula. I was actually getting confused because when their version of the Renfield character goes mad, in the Bela Lugosi Dracula, he's played by Dwight Frye, who's a great character actor. He still looks normal, but he's got like bags under his eyes. He looks crazy. In here, he turns into like a present day Danny DeVito. You know, he's got like, bald on top, like the white frizzy hair, and like sideburns. There was something else I was going to say too, but I forgot it. Oh, so yeah, I was watching it and I was like, oh, it kind of looks like... And then I kept thinking, like, is that Dwight Frye? Kind of looks like it. There's no way that's Dwight Frye. And I was confused. But for some reason I thought I was watching Dracula. I would probably still say Dracula is my favorite vampire film. This is up there as like number 2. A very, very close to. And I love the look of Count Orlock in this. I really do. Like, to me, that's what a vampire should look like. You know, if you have to go sparkly or handsome, go as handsome as Bela Lugosi. That's about it. I mean, so much so that even Bert Carlo, the master vampire from Salem's Lot from 1979. He's like a blue version of Count Orlock. You know, egg-shaped head, elf ears, the two front teeth of the fangs that come down really far. And, every shot that Max Schrek is in as Count Orlock is iconic. You've seen it somewhere. Whether it be him walking through the hallway, coming out of the darkness, going up the stairway. After he bites into Harker's fiance, he looks up. Or when he's coming up from below the deck on the schooner, he just picks his head up. All iconic shots. You could put any of those shots on a poster, a t-shirt, or something, and they would all work. I guess another example, like The Shining, you have Here's Johnny, you have the twins, you have Red Rum, you have the carpet designs, stuff like that. But with this, it's I don't know why I'm holding that up. Anyway, dumbass. Every shot he's in is just picture perfect. And even though I'm not the biggest expert on German Expressionist films, or even really what one really is, I really could see the artistic approach in this. I could watch it and tell artistically it is more than a movie. Because there are some neat angles. There are, the way the music hits and certain, overacting for, emotion. It didn't bother me at all that, you had to read the dialogue in of title cards, essentially. That didn't bother me. And I think it's a perfect example of the earliest era of horror. I do know that there was a 1910 version of Frankenstein that was never finished. And I want to say there was another version of Dracula, even before 1920. But Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu are, to me, the first two real horror movies. And, Nosferatu is one of the most iconic. I mean, that shot alone. And you see it all over the place. I mean, Ernest Scared Stupid, the opening credits, has a bunch of Nosferatu clips. The night shift episode of SpongeBob with the light, the hash-slinging slasher with the lights, that's Nosferatu. I haven't seen the 1979 Werner Herzog film remake. I would like to. But yeah, this is really only the second time I've watched this movie. Because I bought this a few years ago. I mean, there's a lot of these I still haven't seen. A lot of them I've seen on Mystery Science Theater 3000. But, yeah, it's the oldest one on here. I don't really know what that matters, but I really like Nosferatu. It's definitely not a movie for everybody. I mean, I know people that won't watch a movie just because it's black and white. Well, now you have black and white, and it's a silent film, and you listen to church organs the whole time. So yeah, it's not going to appeal to everyone, but if you're really into horror or vampires or just, I guess, finer art, definitely check it out. It also totally fits the mood for, Halloween time of the year. So Nosferatu, second favorite vampire movie ever, only beaten by Dracula, which is the same story. So anyway, thank you for watching.